Parents, here's the homework for tonight. 2 multiplication problems up here and then 2 long division problems down here. Let's get started with the multiplication. And the strategy we implement, we call it X's and O's, and we'll kind of dive into, the exact reason we use these in a moment. Let's start in the ones place. 7 times 4 is 28. I regroup my 2 up here. 4 times 3, that's going to give me 12 plus 2 more gives me 14. Now here's when the X's and O come into place. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of the ones, and I'm going to put a 0 in the ones place as a placeholder because now I'm moving into my tens. 8 times 7 gives me 56. I regroup my 5. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 5 more is 29. Now I just add my partial products together. 8 plus 0 is 8. 6 plus 4 is 10. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 1 more gives me 11. And I regroup that other 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. My answer, or product, for number 1 is 3,108. Moving on to number 2, starting in the ones place. 9 times 2 is 18. Regroup that 1. 9 times 6 is 54, plus 1 more is 55. I put my X here. I put my X here, and I put my O, or my 0, there. 5 times 2 is 10. Put the 0 here, carry that 1. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 1 is 31. Add up those partial products. 8 plus 0 is 8. 5 plus 0 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. 3 plus nothing is 3. My product for number 2 is 3,658. Moving on to the long division, I want to kind of go over this again in the exact steps we're talking about here. Each classes do this differently, but the steps are still the same. I know in Miss Homan's class, it's dad, mom, sister, brother, and then RC for remainder and check. In my classroom, it's does McDonald's sell burgers? But regardless of what you say, the first thing you do is divide. The second thing you do is multiply. The third thing you do is subtract. The final thing you do is bring down. And then once you bring down, you start the whole thing over again. We'll talk about remainders and checking in a moment. What we tell the kids is this: if you don't know your math facts, you have to do a thought bubble. I don't know what Miss Homan calls it. I think she just tells them to do their facts. But what they do is they need to identify the divisor, which in this problem it's 3. Off to the side, they need to do all the facts. 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, 3 times 4, 3 times 5, 3 times 6, 3 times 7, 3 times 8, and 3 times 9. The kids will groan because they hate this. But the biggest thing is if they don't know these off the top of their head, they're going to struggle. And they're going to make silly mistakes in here because they're stumbling over themselves in here. If I just tell them, don't worry about this for right now. Worry about getting these down. Once you have these down, you can move on to the actual problem. So 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 8 is 24. And then 3 times 9 is 27. So now that I have all of this, I can come attack this using these steps. So step 1 is divide. So I take my dividend here, and I start with the first digit. It's a 5. Can I divide 5 into groups of 3? Well, yes. There will be 1 in each group of 3. 1 times 3 is 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. And I need to make sure that after I subtract, I bring down. So I'm bringing down my 4. Now I have to ask myself, what times 3 gets me close to 24? Well, I did all the work here. Look how beautiful that is. It's 8. 8 gives me 24. So 8 times 3 gives me 24. 24 minus 24 is 0. I have no remainders. All I have to do left is I need to check my work. Well, how do you check your work? Well, that's why I love division, is because you can check your work to see if you got it right. You don't have to ask anybody or wait for a teacher or a parent. You just take your quotient, which is the number on top of this line, or it's the answer to a division problem, and you multiply it by the dividend. So I'm going to take 18. I'm going to multiply it by 3. And then if this number matches this number, 54, I know that I got my answer correct. So let's take a look. 8 times 3 is 24. Bring my 2 over here. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 more is 5. That's 54. So I know that I got my answer correct. Great job, Mr. C. All right. Moving on to the last problem here. Same steps. I'm going to make sure I put my D, my M, my S, my B, my R, and my C. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, remainder, and check. So first things first, I'm going to pretend I don't know my math facts. That's a 5, so I need to do all my 5s. 5 times 1, 5 times 2, 5 times 3, 5 times 4, 5 times 5, 5 times 6, 5 times 7, 5 times 8, and 5 times 9. I can just skip count by 5s. That's what your kids would probably do. But this way, it's on paper. They're not doing it under duress. While they're doing this, they can just focus and think. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 45. So now I can get started. First step is divide. Can I divide 3 hundreds into groups of 5? Nope, I can't do that. So I need to take this 100, make it a tens, and now I have 37 tens. Can I divide 37 tens into a group of 5s? Excuse me. Yeah, I can divide 37 into groups of 5. The closest I can get is 7 in each group. 7 times 5 gives me 35. And I subtract. That's my next step after I multiply. 37 minus 35 leaves me with 2. And now I know my next step is to bring it down. Okay? 5 times what gets me close to 25? Well, I know that if I take 25 things, break them into groups of 5, it'll give me 25. So I'll put my 5 up here. 5 times 5 is 25. I multiplied. Now I'm subtracting again. 0, 0. No remainders. Last step is to check. Here we go. I'm going to take my quotient, which is 75, and I'm going to multiply it by my divisor, which is 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry that 2 over. 5 times 7 is 35, 36, 37 with my plus 2. 375 here, 375 up here. I know that I did the work. There you go. Parents, one last thing. I know I get a lot of these messages, and so does Miss Homan, about, hey, what can we do to help our kids if we know that they're struggling? Here's what I would do. As soon as you're done with these and you check their work with them, turn that thing over. And even if there is a remainder, it's okay. You guys don't have to think about how hard you make these, but come up with another one. And if you want to do this one, that's great. Here you go. Now, we need to get here. And most of your kids can do this. I mean, I think the hardest was a 3-digit dividend here, but a 4-digit dividend is where they have to be in 4th grade. But the steps still stay the same. You guys can do this at home. This is something that you and your child can work on. Give them some problems to work on. Have them explain the steps to you. Talk them through it. And then if you guys can do 1 or 2 of those a night, maybe 1 multiplication, 1 division a night, you're going to do wonders for your child. And getting them to talk to you and explain it to you and try to teach it to you is going to make their comprehension of the topic even more stout. So thank you for watching the video. Have a great evening. We'll see everybody tomorrow.